I even have it.
All right, everyone start over.
Yeah, let's do it again. There was a good question though, Rob, you had on B26 view. How does this differ from visualization? And should it even be there if we already have the term for visualization? They do seem kind of like dupes.
To me, they are, because a visualization to me is just a representation of the data, and that could be a table, a list, a view, whatever you might expect, as well as graphical in terms of graphs and charts. So in my view, they are identical.
One thing that I was thinking about, because I know last time I was the one that was bringing that up, like we already have these queries and lists and things. And I know that's not exactly the same as dashboarding. So there may be an alternate that we have things called app landing pages or something like that, or that are separate and different from dashboards, and they have their own views or queries and run. And they're performant because they're in the app and they have pagination and all the things that make the app run, but they're not a panel and they're not a dashboard. And we could probably define the current views in GitLab as that, like app specific views versus getting like lumping them in with this whole configurable dashboard world. That was just something I was thinking about over the last week or so. Like maybe just get rid of that term. And then we also define like what is an app landing page? A page that someone can interact with, but is not clearly not a dashboard.
I think that makes sense. We just need to come up with we need to finally decide what it means to be a dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
What's the term? What's the descriptive term to cause that separation?
Like I think on a lot of the landing pages where we have list views or boards or things like that, they're not configurable and they don't have panels and they're not editable by users ever currently in GitLab. So yeah, getting to the negative definition, like what is a app page and what is not a dashboard, maybe would help us get closer to it. But I have a fear of mixing in every single page into the dashboard definition when I really take a step back.
I just wanted to loop back and close off the view discussion. Are we all in agreement that this could be like duplicated and could be removed, especially since it's under a config, and of like the configuration discussions we've had with engineers, like I've only seen visualization, and view does seem like a duplicate.
That's where I was kind of going, because if we kill it, let's just say that that exists on landing pages currently in GitLab and is not a dashboard. If everyone's in agreement. And then we'll only have visualizations in the dashboard terminology, not the word view.
I think we could delete it from the row and in our description be specific and say a dashboard is not a XYZ explanation of what a landing page, what the app landing page view style is. Because there is as you said, there are a lot of things that the landing page doesn't have that a dashboard would have. Yeah, so I wouldn't expect it just like the projects list to be a dashboard necessarily. It's a listing. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, and also would you configure a landing page as a customizable dashboard? It would probably be like a hard-coded page.
Yeah, and I think that the app landing pages could take some of these concepts, but they're also like hard coded into GitLab. And so you might have alternate views on your data, go from list view to table view to board view, but it's not a dashboard. That was one thing Christy asked me last week, was just how, like, are you getting towards what a dashboard is not, and the definitions for those other landing pages? Can we get those too? So if we could take a stab at kind of deciding, or at least giving them like a definition, even if we don't go deeply on them, as the counter to the dashboard. So I just moved it down to the bottom. I dragged it down to like line 47 for now. We'll just have like a cut line. But I do think we're going to need some kind of definition on those in the next couple of weeks. Just a line on what those things are called and how they're different from a dashboard. I think I'm in agreement with all the suggestions personally, but I was wondering if anyone else had, there were any points of discussion we could do on the call. Otherwise, we could probably take a lot of this async.
For me, I am just waiting for people to say yay or nay before I go through and write descriptions out. So I'm happy for it to be async and people just go through the comments, or if they add their own. If I get a few people agreeing on a comment that I've commented on, then I'm happy to go in and make that change if someone doesn't do it already.
Do we need a concept of sort order on panels documented or anything like that? Or drag drop behavior?
The drag drop could go in with grid attributes, but I see what you mean about we're not describing like the ability to move panels around necessarily, just that you can position them in a grid. So that could be added to the description. Because we were talk about grid layout and row columns, etc., but we don't actually say you could move them around in the UI in any way. And sorting, I would put under filters personally, but I mean, we can make that distinction, have a sorting and filtering.
I'm thinking more on sorting of the panels themselves, like the chosen layout that either the designer gives, or if it's like get up for customization, anyone could move the panels into a new order. It wouldn't affect the sort order of the whole query or anything. Maybe it's not relevant. Maybe that's just a part of the grid too. It like knows the order that each one is in.
Yeah, the grid attributes state XY coordinates for the panel, so that would instantly give you the order. The ability to sort them, you're right, that it could be turned on or off based on the needs of that particular dashboard. If it's custom made, then it's going to need a way of users to be able to move them around. But if it's built by us as a static and uneditable dashboard, then maybe not. We wouldn't have that functionality. It'd be specifically designed to be rendered in this way.
Yeah, so if I get into duplicate, clone, all of those kind of editable things, the sort order of the panels is an attribute.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we can just wrap up this part of the agenda and keep going async. And then Justin, you had the due date check-in. We're still tracking to the 28th. for our next, which is essentially all of the definitions on the MR containing them.
The sub due date for draft by is 131, which I think we have accomplished. We have the draft. Right.
Yeah. That leaves us till the 10th to finish up all of the open threads on the definitions.
Is the aim, once we have these definitions, to convert these into some kind of output, like a pajamas guidelines or product guidelines or some kind of guideline? Is that the general aim out of this? So we have
Yeah.
a list of things of do's and don'ts.
Yeah, we're naming all of these elements and what they mean somewhere.
The hardest
Taking it to
part.
Markdown. So I'll like everyone should suggest where the best place for that is. I don't know, but I look to all of you. Especially because these don't exist yet, technically. I mean, it's a guideline, but hopefully everyone will start picking it up. So that might be pajamas and vision for but I don't know.
I personally, as an engineer, the first place I look is pajamas guidelines on how a page should interact and look visually with a user. So if I was going to look up what a dashboard is, that's probably where I'd go first. I'd probably look at the pajamas guidelines because they're normally pretty extensive, or they point you in a direction of another documentation on our handbook, which explains that from a product point of view or whatever it might be.
Makes sense to me.
Does anyone have an alternative or augmented additional location they'd like to suggest?
I think pajamas makes sense. We could possibly have a dedicated section for it. We already have data visualization there. Maybe dashboards would be another top level thing. Not sure. Because it's not a component. It's not really a pattern. I think we could find a place there somewhere.
I don't know, it could be a pattern. Because we're describing how a dashboard should be behaviorally look and feel to our users. And you should repeat and follow this pattern for all additional dashboards you create. In the same way as navigation, and we describe about how in general on navigation you should have auxiliary actions on one side and destructive actions on another, that sort of thing.
That's a good point. There is sort of guidance on how to use this, even if it will be new components, which some of them might be. It will be guidance on how to use them basically in a patterned way.
Matej, just there's something that we don't have yet in the pajamas UI because we just don't have an example of it, and that is like page templates as well. And so when I was working on the IA updates at the end of last fall, that's a page or a section that we've added between. Let me figure out where this is at here. I'm just looking locally quick. 1 second.
You have it locally, but it's not in pajamas yet.
Right. Yeah. So between
Okay.
patterns and objects, there's a page templates category, but we just have nothing to add under that yet. So it's not revealed in the pajamas navigation.
Okay.
But anyway, page templates is another section that originally I had dashboards under, but we left it out. And part of that was just because of the definition of dashboards. It was all over the place. So that's another consideration. We can leave it out there. We could also parse it out in a few different areas and really tie it together too. So
yeah. But I do think it makes sense to document this in pajamas.
Yeah, I agree. Product and design and management are going to be the first port of call when it comes to creating these new features and areas in the product. And you know, that you as a designer, that's, you know, first port of call as well, is to go look at what we already have agreed as a group in pajamas. So having that block there stops it from getting down to engineering when engineering starts questioning it, because in our engineering handbook it doesn't match up with what we're saying. I do know we don't have anything related to dashboards in the engineering handbook though. Well, we do. We have a custom dashboards page which describes the functionality, which we could then link to the pajamas documentation too, to be fair.
Can you paste that link in, Robert? I'm curious to see it. The custom dashboards page from the engineering perspective. So it sounds like pajamas will be our single source of truth, and we'll figure out which one, where it goes. Anything else? Any gotchas as we head into this next week with the February 10th finishing up feedback? I'm guessing we'll have approximately 7 names on each cell. We don't need 100% consensus, but let's just see what happens.
I think the majority is fine. Getting 4 people in each one.
All right, let's end early. Thanks, everyone.